Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kindred Skulls. Capital L for loss. Capital L for Lions. Good evening. My name is Greg Blake. I am one of the co-hosts of this fantastic show. I'm joined this evening, as always, by my lovely and talented and brilliant co-hosts, Nick Olson. And handsome, of course. How could I forget?
Important one. Don't miss that one.
I can't believe I skipped that one. Nick Olson, how are you this evening?
I'm ready for football, Thursday night football, to wash the taste out of my mouth out of this last loss, because that was a painful one. I won't lie.
It's a painful one, and we will definitely get into it. I'm also joined this evening by Matt Freese. How are you this evening, Matt?
Yeah, this game tomorrow might give me a whiplash because I'm not sure I'm over the loss yet. So, we got to turn around and watch another one tomorrow night already. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, it's certainly
at least I didn't take as big of an L as Gregg did after his win last week. But
I knew you guys were going to get into it right away. Look, I had this whole idea.
It's all your fault, Greg. It's all your fault.
It really is.
This is the second time in our recordings here that I really genuinely considered bringing an egg, to the video here and smashing it over my head. I also considered maybe having an egg like graphic fly in and smack me in the face. And I'm like, I just don't want to do all that work. So it's just not for the Lions game. I'm totally at fault here. I have egg all over my face. I ranted and raved about the Lions, and they came in and they handled business. And I feel good for Lions fans, I guess, on some level. Like, I really meant that when I said about like wanting them to have a better team and stuff, but didn't want it to come like this, and certainly not against us. So egg on my face. Hey, you know what? I'll take the L on this one. I'll take the L. Yet another L on this show.
it's like we're Vikings fans, I guess. Like, it's not surprising. I don't think anybody was surprised.
I wasn't surprised at all.
Yeah.
I called my wife into the room during the last drive of the game, and I was like, "Babe, come in here. Watch Goff this up." And I was like so confident, and I'm like drunk and high, and I'm just like, come watch this guy Goff it up right now. And he throws the touchdown, and I literally just started cackling like a lunatic. Like, it was just so ridiculous. I was just like, that is definitely an outcome that I knew could happen, but I didn't, not in my wildest, I guess. How did you guys feel emotionally? Like, where were you when?
I think the worst part for me is, so obviously we got down bad, like in the middle of the game before we started coming back. But for a while, it looked like the Lions would kind of win by multiple scores, which is just embarrassing. Like, it shouldn't be personally embarrassing, but for some reason with the Vikings, it feels like when I watch the Vikings, I feel like I'm a failure a little bit. So I don't know. I take it on too much. And so that sucked. But then the Vikings started coming back. So I got to experience both the pain of a winless team blowing you out, but also a winless team winning on a heartbreaker. And then I think the worst part of it was just like, as soon as Goff threw that touchdown, knowing like this was going to be like, we're not going to get over this. This is going to be not just all week, and now Goff is one NFC player of the week, kind of a joke, but like shoved in her face. Dan Campbell's press conference, I knew as soon as he caught that touchdown, like that was going to be, everybody was going to be talking about that all week. And then, not to the extent that like Lions are really rivals with the Vikings or anything, but like Lions fans are going to bring this up forever. We will never, ever live this down. So other than that, it's been fine. But
yeah. We need the Lions to win another game this year, and then this game doesn't matter. So.
I'm rooting for them so hard the rest of the year.
Yeah. Matt, you were pretty devastated by this one, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of despondent for like a couple hours. The problem was like, I don't know, it's just the stress that the team puts on you, right? Because you're like, that entire last drive was 14 plays. They trickled offense down the field. They really didn't have any big plays. We were in prevent defense the whole time. We'll get into that.
It was like Chinese water.
But it was just like the entire length of the field going down there, and then it came down to literally the last play of the game. It's fourth down. There are 4 seconds left on the clock, and you just fail.
That drive. Yeah. You know what that drive reminded me a lot of? And it's, I think there's something maybe metaphorical, like at a higher level here. It reminded me a lot of the end of the Denny Green eras. That was a common theme where we would score a lot of points and it would come down to final drives. And Denny Green's teams were notorious for going into prevent defense and allowing teams to just march down the field and score points at the last minute. It happened to us all the time. And, that definitely brought back some memories in the worst way.
Yeah.
Tough game. Let's get into the details a little bit.
Let's talk about it in excruciating detail.
Yeah,
you watched all the all-22, so you didn't have to.
That's what these folks are here for. They want to hear us drag ourselves through this stuff here. So let's
Yeah,
I went slightly crazy rewatching it, but
yeah,
but I did. So
the first thing I'd like to discuss is, because it's something we talked about a little bit already a few times this year, those individual moments, right? Those the game comes down to those like individual moments that you can point to and be like, that was a moment. For me, the end of the second quarter, going into the half, that failed drive where we go for we managed to get it downfield on a nice pass to JJ, and then we go overthrow, almost INT, could have been a fumble, and then we get booted off the field, and there's a penalty call too. And then we allow them with 40 seconds left to drive down the field and score some more points. Yep. Some more
big
points.
Play. Big play.
That was a moment in the game where I was like, that feels like a losing moment. That feels like something that's going to really. It's just not. That's
and
not.
We only lost by 2 points, right? So
that's that was for me a big thing. What else did you guys pick up from this game? Let's start with Jared Goff. I mean, obviously this is a big moment for Jared. He's not been a huge success in Detroit. I think we can say that pretty confidently. What did you guys think about his performance?
Yeah. So on Goff, I thought on our defense, it was a lot of little things adding up. And a lot of those little things were the fact that we had backup linebackers in, like especially those 2 touchdown drives early in the game, right? Where they went up 14-6. You had the first one, there was a throw to Hawkinson deep where, I think it was the first one where it just got over, I think it was Troy Dye. No, it was Vigil in coverage. It just got over Vigil in coverage. And Woods also had the penalty on that play, which on the all-22, like he literally hit him with his back. So that was kind of rough to me. Like he turned away from that as much as he can. I know it was contact to the head or neck. I'm pretty sure it was contact to the head and neck area. They didn't show a great replay on it on the broadcast, because when you get these like C-team broadcasts, they never show good replays of anything.
Forget replays. Like the CBS doesn't even show you the start of the play. It's like infuriating to me.
No, it really
I don't like
frustrating on the broadcast.
Yeah.
And then the next play, I think Breland gets beat. So that was rough. But actually on that Hawkinson touchdown, like it's cover 1 and Harrison Smith comes underneath it and the ball is just under his hand. Like it's a good throw by Goff, and Goff
literally inches away.
Yeah, literally inches away. Goff was precise throughout the game, right? There were a number of plays that were inches away, but I think with better linebackers in the game in particular, like that changes. The other touchdown to that tight end who Wright or something, I don't even know his first name. Again, that's over a linebacker. If that's Kendricks in that situation, I think Kendricks is getting the depth to get underneath that. Like that was a tight contested pass. There were a couple other big plays that got let up. Oh, and on that 2-minute drill, the one was a deep over to St. Brown, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Troy, now it was Breland who's playing outside leverage and he's man coverage across the formation, but Dye is running with that and he can't catch up to St. Brown. I don't know if that's something Kendricks makes, but if one of those plays is made, maybe the outcome of the game is different, right? It wasn't like it was a huge margin.
I had a lot of hope for Dye. I don't think he's really got it.
To be honest with you, there were a couple of nice plays that Dye made, and there was actually a run in the backfield where they gained like 10 yards and Dye could have made the tackle in the backfield. So I think he's close in a lot of senses, but it's not all there. And maybe that's something a young player can put together as he moves along in his career, but it's obviously not there right now, right? So, and it's hard to compare him to Eric Kendricks, who is like the best linebacker in the NFL. So,
right, of course, yeah.
Dye has like intriguing traits. So I get why they have him on the field and stuff. And like,
I mean, that's why
when he like robots or like when he like goes sideline to sideline, you see like the range, the speed.
He moves well.
He like is really good like mucking up like lanes, passing lanes. It was just kind of an underrated thing a linebacker does, but like he's got hops too, and he's good at like timing deflections. He's always like inches away from deflecting things. So he's if he can just process things a little bit better, he'll be a starting quality. But right now he's not there yet. So it was tough to miss both Barr and Kendricks. So that was rough.
That's always going to be tough.
It was good. It was good to have Pierce and Tomlinson back. I thought like they made a clear difference in the run game, and basically all the bad runs like came at least along the interior came against James Lynch, who stopped his streak of good games, I think, and had a little rough game. And Watts, continues to struggle a little bit in the run game as well. So, but it was good to have Pierce and Tomlinson back in the run game, and so. I don't know. Hopefully this team can get a little healthy. But yeah, as far as Goff, like, man, he just tends to go hot a little bit against the Vikings. I mean, we've seen him do it before. He had that incredible game. What was that? 2018, 2019, week 4, I think. I
have no memory of that.
I think the 2018 dicing up the Vikings defense.
Yeah.
So
that was funny.
He had a couple like really pinpoint throws like that Hawkinson like touchdown, or the deep one to Hawkinson, I think. Like a dig route or something, or a seam route, like just like perfectly placed. So he had some good plays. He also had his like Jared Goof plays, like the Dantzler interception was just like throwing it in the triple coverage.
Dude, St. Brown was wide open on that play too. Like he had a million yards underneath. Like it was 2 crossers and he should have hit the other one. I don't know.
People were wondering a lot, like the blitzing was working. Why weren't we blitzing Goff so much? But like the thing is, if you take away Goff's first option too, his brain just short circuits. So like whether it's pressure or it's taking away the first thing in coverage, like either way, like if it's not there, he will literally just like bounce up and down and hitch a million times until it's like he'll just like throw it for some random erratic direction. So I think Zimmer was more confident that he could understand what the lines were trying to do and take away the passing options and shade coverage certain ways, or take things away or drop more guys in coverage than he was like, seeing if Nick Vigil can get home on a blitz, which he did, and like Harrison Smith did as well. But like, I don't know. I'm not sure the answer here was blitz more, because like Goff, he has issues as a passer, but he's not like bad against the blitz. It's not like if you just throw blitzes, like he'll still find his hot read or whatever. He knows what to do. It's the problem with Goff is if you muddy things up for him or confuse him or you make him go to plan B, he has no plan B. So
and the problem was we didn't execute well enough on the defensive side to make that happen often enough in the game.
And honestly, we did a good job stopping Goff for most of the game. The issues where we weren't were like prevent defense. But the thing about prevent defense is like you kind of know what's going to happen in prevent defense. Like it's too high. It's a lot of cover 2 or Tampa 2 or cover 4 or something. But either way, you're giving a lot of space underneath. Middle of the field is.
We'll pause you. I want to ask you a question. So we did seem to run a lot of those deep coverages, prevent coverages in this game. Did it work at all? The whole game?
I kind of think they should just scrap the whole prevent defense section of the playbook, because like I don't know what it is, but guys are like they're not covering, and it's too easy, I think, for offenses to attack when they know exactly what the coverage is going to be. And like if you just run a 20-yard curl or something, or a 15-yard dig, and it's going to be open because just the way like if it's going to be cover 2, that like that's going to break open at this time. It's just so easy to shred defenses doing that. And so I feel like when Zimmer is like kind of in his bag and he's mixing up coverages and he's disguising things, and he'll show cover 2 but roll to like cover 3 or whatever, or he'll muddy up the fronts or whatever. That's hard on a quarterback. It's really easy though when you know exactly what the coverage is going to be, or at least you know that it's going to be like too high. They're not rotating safeties. They're not inverting coverages. They're not doing anything to trick you or anything. So That just makes it a lot easier,
defense,
especially for a quarterback like Goff, who like is really good when he knows where to go with the ball. So
prevent defense, by its very nature, it's designed to give up yards. I mean, that's what it does.
Yeah.
It's like,
so
we're going to prevent the big play by giving you all this other stuff. I've never really understood it.
I will say early on, I thought the problem with like the first few touchdowns as I kind of touched on was play action defense. And that kind of falls more on the linebackers than it does the secondary. Yeah. There were a couple of losses by the corners in there as well, but the safeties were fine. On that final drive, to me, there were like 3 plays that really mattered. And they were all the plays where the Lions got out of bounds. Like they were doing a good job of holding them to 6 yards inbounds, for the most part. But Mackenzie Alexander took a bad tackle angle on a running back and let him get outside and get out of bounds. And that was a 3rd and 10 too. So he got a first down and he got out of bounds. And
that
then
was really brutal.
He had bad leverage on an out route that the Lions ran that got him out of bounds again. And if the clock doesn't stop on those 2 plays, it looks a lot different on the last play. Obviously the last play was Cam Dantzler, right? So,
Well, do you guys want to dig into
It's a little bit Xavier Woods Woods could have read it quicker, I think, but yeah, like Patrick Peterson came out and said
we're settling this debate once and for all right here, right? It's on Cam. That's what we decided.
It's on Cam. Patrick Peterson came out and said it was on Cam.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And you can look like they were playing the exact same coverage. The immediate play before was, third and goal, 8 seconds, or 3rd and 10, but effectively 3rd and goal with like 8 seconds left. And they ran the same coverage. It was like it was 8 guys in coverage, and you have like 3 safeties kind of in the back of the end zone to take away any shot. Like if a tight end is going to go up and try and catch something in the back of the end zone, they're there to take that away. And you have like 5 guys up in the front to take away, reading their guy or whatever, like whether it's the 1 or the 2 or whatever, reading their guy, but also tackling anything in front of them and then being there to stop somebody from getting into the end zone. And you can kind of see every other guy on the previous play and everybody other than Dantzler on the second play, like kind of cap the coverage a little bit, like catch the route a little bit, be there to contest it, like stick to their guy. And Dantzler, I don't know what he does. I think he just has a brain fart. But he like backpedals into the end zone. It's like, dude, what are you doing? And like I'm on Rod St. Brown's like said like after the coverage, he was like, I don't know what he's doing, but this is perfect. Yeah. This is like Dantzler. I don't know, which is tough because Dantzler I thought actually played really well overall. But that's obviously he
had a couple nice plays in this game, but I don't know. It's just like it's the consistency for him, and I think that's.
It doesn't matter how good your game is. Yep. If you're the guy at the end of the game with your helmet off, looking at the camera like, you're done, man. Your whole game is a wash for everybody who's watching the game. It's not fair, but that's just the reality. I don't know. Yep. Do you guys have anything else to add on the defensive side? Because I'd like to switch it over a little bit, talk about the offense.
Yeah, okay, let's go over to the offense.
Let's talk about the offense. So we had yet another game with long stretches of ineffective offensive play, in particular the first half. What did you guys see in the first half that they were doing or that we weren't doing? What was happening there? Because it was very frustrating to watch, I can tell you that much.
I think one philosophical, like overarching strategic thing that I'll take issue with the offense and the way Kubiak has sort of designed the offense overall is that I feel like they do such a good job setting up their pass protection for success and not allowing Cousins to get sacked and preventing pressures from affecting Cousins. And I think the philosophy there is Cousins is so good when he's working from clean pockets. And if you just allow him to like do his thing and like read the field and go like the 1, 2, the 3 check down or whatever, like he'll carve defenses up. And I think that's true to an extent, but I also feel like they are prioritizing like keeping Kirk clean to the extent that it limits the overall offensive efficiency. And I think you see this, like they're really good at neutralizing, for example, Nick Bosa or whatever, or Joey Bosa earlier this year, but like they'll do it in such a way that like the offense will not be able to move the chains as much. And so there's just a lot of reliance on quick screens to the wide receivers. And they're not a good screen team. They don't, for whatever reason, they're not like on the same page, or whether it's injuries to the offensive line. I think Oli Udoh like blew up a couple screens that probably could have done a little bit better this game. Cousins like having weird opportunities, like pressure in his face, having to change the arm slot of his screen passes. Like we're throwing so many screens, especially the wide receiver screens, which they have some success with, so it's not like completely unjustifiable, but it's, you throw a pass 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage and the guy gets wrapped up right away, and that's a negative play, and you keep going back to the well on that one because you're hoping the guy will like break a tackle or something. And it's just not good offensive design when instead of doing that, you could be doing like a 5-step drop and hitting like an intermediate dig or something. Like they hit Justin Jefferson twice in a row later on in the game on a weak side dig, and it's like, why isn't this a bigger part of the offense? It's open every time. Jefferson runs great routes. Cousin is great with the timing, and it's not like you can do play action to protect them still. So I just don't understand. There's such an emphasis on screens and the quick game, and it's not necessarily like bad, but this offense would sustain longer drives if they were willing to push the ball downfield a little bit more. We're a little more aggressive, and we're willing to accept some of the risk of like Kirk Cousins having to be under pressure a little bit more. So
yep, and I'll tell you, 39 on the Lions, Jerry Jacobs, I think, is like an undrafted rookie or something. I don't think he's that good of a coverage corner down the field, but he sure can tackle on screens because he did it like 5 times in this game where it was just like they had no shot. Like he was just triggering on him so fast. So
so what you're effectively doing, and Matt, please respond to this if you'd like to, but what it seems like you guys are saying, you're effectively, you have a team that runs, which is what we are, and that comes with some negative things like 1 yard runs or negative yard runs. You combine that with passes that are also stopping at the line or stopping behind the line. That's a really bad recipe, right?
Yeah. This is the John DeFilippo problem is when the passing game is neutered to the extent that it just becomes an extension of the run game, you're not going to sustain drives. And you need to have not just explosives, but you need to have like intermediate gains as well if you're going to continue to drive down the field. Like the reason the Chiefs offense is so good is not just like the deep stuff with Tyreek, but like Kelsey can catch anything from anywhere in the field. And it's just a very difficult offense because they use the entire extent of the field. The Vikings, it's so much quick game and so much screens that like, even if you're playing too high with like guys backed off, like you can still sort of like trigger downhill and like wrap up and stop a lot of the stuff they're doing. So it's just tough. I feel like strategically they just need to open it up a little bit more. And when they do, they have a lot of success. So I kind of don't get why they continue, especially against like a pass rush like the Lions. Like I get it. Right. Like Oli Udoh wasn't like great in this game, but like you're not going to face a worse pass rush than the Lions. This isn't Nick Bosa. This isn't like Myles Garrett. This is the Lions. Like they've got some guys, but you don't need to protect them. Like if there were ever a game where you could like have some 5 and 7 step dropbacks and see what happens, like this was it. So just the insistence on screens and stuff.
Matt, did you notice anything else?
Yeah. So like Nick said, the offensive line wasn't that bad. The one major loss was Tyler Conklin against Charles Harris that I noticed. There was also the Kirk weird fumble thing kind of, but that was the Kirk fumble. Was Tyler Conklin 1-on-1 against Charles Harris. Probably don't put a tight end 1-on-1 in the defensive end. Like we've seen that enough with Danielle Hunter where you just don't want to do that ever. But I think the big thing for the offense was how many drives in the first half did we get over the 50, get on their side of the 50 and weren't able to come away with points or weren't able to come away with a touchdown, right? It was just killer. And it kind of felt like one of those games earlier in the season where we would get stopped on first down on a drive, and then all of a sudden the drive was dead. I think another thing, the Wongwu plays like did not work at all, and I think a lot everybody's clamoring after the 2 kickoff return touchdowns for him to get more stuff, and we said it here as well, right? Like it would be interesting to try to mix him in on offense. I think we learned now why he hadn't been mixed in on offense. He was just missing reads.
It was pretty disappointing.
It was pretty brutal.
I'm keeping the faith because I doubted him and he showed me.
I very much believe in him as a kick return. I mean, he had a great kickoff return in this game too. I kind of forgot about that before watching the All-22. But so I don't know why teams keep kicking to him, but I hope they do.
You can keep giving him like jet sweeps. Like I wouldn't trash it. Just be like he could have cut inside. Like the blocking was there to an extent on the jet sweep. He probably could have gotten something, and instead I think he got tackled behind the line of scrimmage. So the 2-point conversion, which we'll get to, is worse. But I think that was also just bad play design. So I'm not opposed to necessarily using him as like a change of pace back, so long as Dalvin Cook is hurt. And side note, hopefully like they're not going to rush Dalvin back. Like he's questionable to play, which seems insane to me. But
I can't believe that. I really can't.
I'm fine with just a smattering of like designs, jet sweep, or even just using the threat of him as like a jet sweep guy and having him in there like, two running backs, and he'll just sweep across the formation a little bit and get defenses perspective.
I really hope we don't put Dalvin out there this week.
Yeah.
I worry for him. Like that's not.
I don't know, man. It sounds like the injury isn't like you make it worse thing, but it just doesn't sound like a sound decision. But like Nick was saying, like I think you can still sprinkle in the Wongloo stuff. But like I don't know, on that 2-point conversion in particular, let's talk about it a little bit because
let's talk about that.
Because like in that situation, when you put him in that game, the defense is like, all right, they're giving that guy the ball, right? Because it's kind of like a gadget player, and like that play call is something I think it was the Rams kind of thing where they run 2 guys on the jet and then give it to the second guy, and it kind of works like power, they used to do it with like I think Robert Woods, which was really innovative, and like it's a cool design. But when you put a guy like Wongloo on the field, it kind of alerts the defense to, hey, there's a good chance this guy's getting the ball because he's that gadgety kind of role. So if you don't work him in where he's like a Tyler Ervin, who the Packers ran on jet sweeps like 20 times without actually giving him the ball on jet sweeps, like if you don't work him in, I think it lessens the effectiveness of a player like that.
We've been so bad. I'm just going to go into my like Clint Klubiak rant right now. We've been so bad on 2-point conversions, and like Clint cannot stop himself.
We're 1 of 7, by the way.
Which is got to be the worst.
Nick, do you want to wait just a little bit longer? Because we're almost to tape talk, my man.
Why don't we just dive in, man?
All right. Let's do it. We don't even want to talk about the positives this week. Let's just go right into tape talk. I'm with you, by the way.
We can circle back. We can circle back to the Justin Jefferson silver lining. But
look, it's all about JJ, right? I mean, that's the biggest positive from this game. It was a transcendent performance yet again.
Insane amount of yards.
He's a remarkable player, and very once again on this show we're singing his praises.
Although, dare I say, this might be blasphemous. I think there are times when they're force feeding him and it's not effective. I know that sounds crazy, but there were multiple targets he got in this game where he didn't win in his route. And it kind of felt like Kirk was just like, feeling his hurt, I have to chuck this up to Jefferson. Like there was a fade route that I think Jefferson probably could have caught if he hadn't slowed down. He kind of turned back.
I think that throw was a little bit off too. I mean, it was a little
off, but Jefferson slowed down. Like he
did.
Sometimes he'll slip up like that when he's tracking the ball, which is like, that happens. Nobody's perfect, but like they just threw it up front and Jefferson didn't come down. Not the worst thing in the world. The worst one was he does this sort of like 5 stutter step, like outside release, then slant inside, and the cornerback just like sat on it and was totally there. And Kirk threw it anyway, and Jefferson like stopped mid route, and the cornerback dropped in it like what could have been a pick 6 or something. It was like a very easy interception that the guy just dropped.
I counted 3 possible interceptions in this game from Kirk that we got very lucky with. Did you guys see any more than that?
There was the one to it was right before the 4th and 10 that we failed to Dede, I think, on a seam route that got undercut. I don't remember another one, but
there was another one in the red zone that kind of looked like it might have been interceptable, like by the linebacker. But then when I watched it from the end zone angle, it didn't look like it the way it did on the broadcast. So, but yeah. And anyway, Jefferson's really good.
Jefferson's the man.
I mean, he was running every kind of route to every kind of depth, and the Lions were trying very clearly to like shade coverages and not quite like bracket him like 2-man, like you have 2 guys on him in man coverage, but like just sort of shade coverage everywhere he goes and always be aware of him. And he was still able to go off for 200 yards. Like that's crazy. Like Adam Thielen went out and he went off for like almost 200 yards. That's just insane. So
it's crazy.
Transcendent player, really good. obviously contested catches, threatening deep underneath, like every single route from the release to the stem to the break at the top of his routes to the contested catching to the run to the yards after catch. It's just like he's so good at everything. So
big details,
reasons to
like
live.
he ran this comeback route where like it was the release was a little bit at an angle and he kind of bended it a little bit, but there was a point where he got straight vertical, stopped on a dime and comes back to it. And I think it was zone defense. So he was kind of in between a few defenders, but like just the little details of his route running are insane every single time.
He's a dancer.
I think we're seeing him emerge into like top 5 all-pro caliber receiver, which was
totally
the tape looked like that last year, but he was a rookie. So we were sort of thinking like, let's see him do it again before we put him up with like Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill. But this year, I think I wouldn't necessarily put him in the elite of the elite tier, but like, man, if he's not in that tier, he's definitely right up in the second tier. So really talented player.
He's getting there every week. All right, tape talk. Let's do it. All right, Nick, you let him have it. Let's talk about Quinn.
So I talked about like philosophically the things that like grind my goat a little bit with Coops.
And if there's any newish listeners, this is a topic we've addressed a few times here. Nick has had a love-hate relationship with Clint all season. So
it's been hot. It's been a hot and cold offense, man.
Yeah. Well, he's so good at the play design, and that's why they're so good coming out of the gates. Like scoring on the first drives almost every week. I mean, we didn't this week, but we still managed like a pretty good drive. And then since they started scripting the beginning drive in the second half, like we've started really strong in the third quarters as well. So he designs really good plays and he knows how to attack offenses. And when he's just sort of in his opening script, he's great. But then he gets back to just like the vanilla play sheet and he'll throw, like 2 smoke routes in a row or whatever. And it's just like, it's very frustrating to see. And the occasions he will mix things up. It just like reinforces why aren't you doing this more often from me? So I think the other thing that really bugs me about him is he gets so cute in his play design sometimes, especially in gotta have it situations like in 3rd and 1 or in the 2-point conversions. And we can go over each of the 3 2-point conversions because they were really the difference in this game. Like if we had just kicked a field goal, we would have won this game. Or we would have gone.
We would have gone to overtime at least, yeah.
So I mean, we lost by 2 points. So we had 3 2-point conversions. One actually, I think the play call was fine because it was just sort of a vanilla ISO. The fullback leads the way, and then the back. It's kind of like dual with a fullback. So like Brian O'Neill like uncharacteristically just like whiffed on his block and like fell over and blocked nobody.
Yep.
So. Like Madison wasn't able to punch it in. But that's like it was there. I think it was 1 yard to go because of a penalty or something. So they just needed you're on the goal line, just punch it in.
Yep. Just line up and beat them.
Exactly. You don't need to be too cute with it. And the problem is the other 2-point conversion calls were insanely cute. So there was the Kene Nwangwu like jet power play that we've already touched on, which was very strange because it was a fake jet sweep to KJ Osborne coming around. But Nwangwu was lined up as an offset tight end. And like Matt said, like anytime Nwangwu's on the field, like you kind of know it's going to him. And then they had power on top of it. So Ezra Cleveland pulled. So you get why it looks sexy on a whiteboard because, oh man, we're going to have KJ Osborne coming over to block one guy. And then we're going to have Ezra Cleveland pulling over to block another guy. And then we'll have the Brian O'Neill like blocking. So we have this huge like power and we'll just like punch it in. But you're failing to realize, one, they're going to key in on Nwangwu. Two, Nwangwu doesn't like have the vision to like be like, oh, like Ezra Cleveland missed his pull. I got to bounce this outside, which is what happened. And like Nwangwu instead just like ran into the guy that Cleveland was supposed to pull and like was met by 2 defenders and went nowhere. Like it just feels like he's going to these plays that look great on a whiteboard, but the team hasn't really practiced. So it's like, it's not their bread and butter. It's not what they know how to execute. Yep. And so you have these things that look great in theory. And then the reality is nobody like can really execute. And so it's really tough. And then the other one they had was, I think it was a play action rollout or something.
Yeah, that was sprint right option. So that's like a classic play action play. It's like an old West Coast play. I'm pretty sure one of the famous 49ers plays, like the Montana 49ers plays, was on that. If you remember Mahomes on the 4th down to Tyreek Hill, or no, Henny, the backup, when Mahomes was hurt in the playoff game against the Browns to Tyreek Hill on the 4th down, that was sprint right option. It's like play action going to the left, you roll out, you sprint out right, and then you have this kind of like option route, like a little stick route where the guy fakes going inside like he's blocking and then breaks outside. But like Nick, you were getting to, it didn't work at all. All the options were covered. The out route up top was covered by the corner. I do think Kirk had a little window. If he gets rid of the ball like immediately, there were a couple spots on that play. And then late, I think there was a tiny, tiny window, which honestly could have turned into like a pick 2, I guess, in that situation. So I understand why he doesn't throw that one, because that actually loses us the game too.
Oh boy.
But
if these are his go-to play, like there's a lot, and not just these, but like the 3rd and 1s where he'll like get cute, and like the toss to CJ Ham when they motioned, I think, Cook out wide and then tossed it to Ham, and like these are, they're not like bad play calls or anything, but I don't know why he has to get cute in these gotta have it situations. Like just run the things that people know how to do. The other issue I have with the sprint out is like it's already hard enough to pass into the red zone, like to make it a sprint out where now you're reducing the size of the field to like less than 1/2 of what it already was. It's just tough, and it's different when it, like if you had a more athletic quarterback, then maybe like they could try and punch it in running it, but like Kirk isn't doing that, so you have to pass into a very tight contested window. These are your gotta have it plays. Like why if this really can't be like the best he has on his entire play sheet. Like just.
Actually, the other detail on that play. So what they did is they ran Madison in jet motion from the right. They had 4 strong and they ran him in jet motion, right? The problem with that becomes the Lions just shifted. They didn't run somebody with him, right? So it's not man coverage. So now you put 4 to the one side. The Lions are going to load the coverage to that side, and you're trying to throw to that side. And you're down a guy because the one guy you had over there, you're sending in motion. So that, in terms of a detail on that play, is bad from the Vikings in terms of the play calling staff, because maybe it looks good on paper, like you want to get them to move across the formation, but you're actually playing into their hands a little bit by going back to the right then.
Yeah. I just don't get it, because like on the opening script or the 3rd quarter script, he'll design very good plays, but then in just these short yardage or these 2-point conversions or these gotta have it situations, there was another one that was like, I think it was the 4th and 10 that they decided to go for it because they were in enemy territory. They didn't want to punt it, and they didn't necessarily trust Greg Joseph to kick it. They ran this ungodly route combination and then had, I think, Madison block the edge defender, and it's just like none of the routes were like meshing. There isn't like a concept to describe it. It was like a go route, and then somebody ran like a deep like in or something. I forget the exact combination, but it was like it doesn't. I didn't understand where Kirk was supposed to go with the ball. I don't think Kirk did either, because he didn't throw it. I think he got sacked, and he got sacked because like they slid the protection left and then had Madison block an edge defender, which is like anytime you're having a running back block an edge defender, you have to either have a hot read or have like something you can do, because a good running back can only die slowly to an edge defender. Like they're not going to just stonewall the guy. They're only going to slow him down. So I just the protection didn't like mesh at all with the downfield route concepts. And it was like 4th and 10. So like, this is your gotta have it play call. I just don't understand. Like he's so good overall. But then like at the most crucial times, it's just like vomit all over the play sheet. So I don't get it.
I think it's hard because.
Sorry, folks, we had a little bit of a Zoom hiccup there. I had to cut Matt right off in the middle of his statement about, I think you were talking about a 4th and 10 play.
Yeah, so hopefully we got it in. We were talking about a little bit about the 4th and 10 play where the offense is kind of discombobulated. We get too cute in those situations, and like we're not on the same page as an offense, right? Kirk, before that snap, very animated, trying to get to the protection right. I think he pulls Madison in even, and that's another situation where we were 4 strong. So I don't think we have the details on that down. But like, I mean, we see this regularly on 4th downs where we just can't get it right. You know, as an offense, we had the same thing happen. A similar thing happened last week against the 49ers on that 4th down as well.
I think you guys have used the phrase "too cute" 6 or 7 times, and I'm not making fun of you, because that's my biggest problem with this offense right now. And if you want to see a team that's not being too cute, Just go watch every second of that Monday Night Football game from the New England Patriots just put out. That is not a cute offense, but they know how to move the ball when they need to move the ball. And that's something that's a basic function in every offense, and you've got to be able to do that.
I do think it is a little bit of first-year play caller kind of learning on the job, kind of trying to test the boundaries of what you can do. And obviously we're failing quite a bit when we're testing the boundaries of what we can do. So it's kind of unfortunately, because he doesn't have that experience, it's kind of a mismatch for where the team is for what we have in Clint Kubiak's coaching life cycle, right? And Nick, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I'd just say when we had John DiFilippo, it was the same problem where there were individual play designs that were really good, but overall it was too cute, and he was neutering the entire passing efficiency to save the pass protection. So there's a little bit of that problem in it. And then once we replaced DiFilippo with Stefanski, there was just all of a sudden we had this strong identity, and we were running a lot of wide zone, and it was they are doing this a lot and they're good at it. And because they keep doing it, they're good at it. And they had an identity and they had things that they knew how to do and to execute. And there were a lot of interesting wrinkles Stefanski was able to build in there as well. So it wasn't there were the way Shanahan builds his offense is there are things that they're really good at and they build the wrinkles off of this. This feels a little more disjointed where they're a wide zone team, but they've got these trick plays and they've got this jet motion, but they don't really know what to do with it. And so I think
also on a basic level in the NFL, you have to be able to move the ball. You doing what you want to do when the opposing defense knows you want to do it. I don't care if it's a pass or a run. I don't care what your philosophy is. I don't give a shit. It's just, if you can't do that, that's a basic, you may score 20 plus points in a game, but those individual moments, they'll pop up and they'll bite you in the ass. And that's what you guys are talking about right now. Let's okay. I think we've got enough time to do one more topic on Tape Talk. So I'm going to give you guys the option. Do you want to talk about the offensive line and how messy that was this week? Or do you want to talk about our linebackers and how messy that was this week?
So let's go to the offensive line.
Okay.
And I don't think it was as much of a mess as maybe it's been made out to be. Udo wasn't great, and he had 2 drive-killing penalties just with the false starts that he had. Those killed both of those drives.
Let me pause you just for a second, Matt, because I since we're going there.
Yep.
What have you guys noticed? Why do that? Why put Udo in that position?
So
a guy who's been struggling off and on all year.
It's a good question for Udo. I do like what they did at center and right guard. I think the Bradbury Cole combination is what I want moving forward. I mean, I've been clamoring about this for 3 weeks, so it should be no surprise that I liked it. And I hope I'm not kind of convincing myself because it's what I wanted, but I think they actually played pretty well in this game on combinations, moving. The pass protection was fine on the interior. Now, it's not like we're facing a juggernaut of a defensive line, so maybe that has something to do with it. And the biggest issue we had on offense the whole day was against Charles Harris, right? The interior defensive linemen weren't really doing too much for the Lions. A couple of the penalties are, offensive line penalties, but they were on the tight ends, right? Conklin had a holding penalty and Stalker had a holding penalty, I think. And now those were drive killers too. So that's on the blocking, quote unquote, but it's not on the offensive line. Mm-hmm. Other than that, there was a stunt that they screwed up picking up, and I think that got Kirk sacked or something. Or it got him hit and, it was a bad throwaway. But, I thought they generally played all right. The run game was rolling pretty much all game. It wasn't any major gains, and part of that's who Madison is as a player, but they were consistently positive gains. Outside of the weird trick plays, right, with Longwu.
Yeah.
So
I think the appeal with Udo at left tackle as opposed to Rashad Hill is he has so much more power and he has so many more positive plays in the run game that they get excited about his plus plays and makes them willing to overlook the negative plays. And I will say, I think Udo is more naturally a tackle than he is a guard. And I think that's not just I think that's not just because he was a right tackle all through college, and that's kind of where he was trained at the last couple of years with the Vikings before they chucked him into the guard competition. And I understand why they moved him inside, because I feel like his pass sets are a little tricky or inconsistent, and he's so much better once he gets his hands on a guy. Kind of once Udo gets his hands on a guy, and so long as his hands are placed well, that's kind of the end of the rep. But the problem is, as especially at tackle, you have to be so much more patient, and you kind of have to wait for the guy to engage first. Whereas at guard, you can kind of engage first. So Rashad Hill is like a decent pass protector, good athleticism, and is probably a little bit more consistent. But he'll still give you like bad plays, and he offers you very, very little in the run game. Udo had some good run blocks. Like, he'll move guys. When in those short yard situations, like, Udo is a guy they like to run behind because he is able to like generate a lot of vertical displacement. He's like a big, strong dude. He's also really athletic. So the traits there are very intriguing. Obviously, he's like long as heck too. But that's kind of a problem, because the main problem he has, I think, overall as an offensive lineman is he punches so wide that they could call holding every other play. And even when they don't call holding, he'll just kind of like grab onto the back of a guy's shoulder pads. And then it's so easy as a defensive lineman. You can do any number of things, whether chopping the arm and then ripping around, or like swatting the hands, or forklifting you up, or just bull rushing you back. There's just so many things you can do when you don't have the hands like at the center of the chest plate or whatever. And Udo just punches. He almost like, comes at you like I don't know.
Well, he's trying to give you a hug.
Exactly. Just a friendly guy. So
guys, we have talked way more than I ever wanted to or anticipated in talking about this game.
If I watched all that tape, I'm gonna have takes about it. Dang it!
We watched it.
I want to put this way in the rear view mirror. Let's. Is there any final thought you guys have about this game? I mean, I think, in all honesty, I think we've
Dan Chisena. Okay. Yeah. Oh, one other thought here.
Siri, shut up.
Boot game worked all game this week. Like, we could run play action bootlegs all game. I think that's on the Lions for not like being a good defense, but it was sure nice to see again.
All right. Really excellent job diving into that brutal loss, guys. So we talked about the home stretch, and we talked about how, these next 6-7 games were so important, yada, yada. I don't know about you, but I had baked in a Lions win to that entire discussion. So we now have a surprisingly, to me, tougher game than I imagined coming off that loss now, because of that loss in a way. Facing a Steelers team that just had a big win on Thursday Night Football on a short week. We've got injury issues. We've got guys coming back, but maybe they're going to be a little sore. We've got, maybe we're going to force Dalvin Cook onto the field a little early. There's a lot of really bad signs going into this game, and the Steelers need this just as bad as we do. They're kind of, in some ways they mirror us the way the Chargers did. They are not quite there in some places. They're elite in others. They have a lot of pieces, and some weeks it works, some weeks it doesn't. What are you guys' impressions of the Steelers? And then let's talk a little bit about how important this game is for us. And we'll spend some time on that. But what are you guys' impressions of the Steelers season so far?
So the best part about this game is this is a national game, so everybody's going to get to see how sloppy and terrible it's going to be. Because the Steelers are a very sloppy, messy offense, and they have an extremely good defensive line, which is probably going to lead to a very sloppy, messy offensive game from the Vikings, right?
Ben Roethlisberger is dead. He's deader than dead.
We've harped on it for, pretty much this entire podcast, but when we try to protect Cousins too much, right? When we try to protect our offensive linemen too much, I guess I should say, it kind of creates a little bit of ugly offense for us. And if there's a week you're going to protect your offensive lineman against the defensive line, it's going to be against the Steelers, right? TJ Watt leads the NFL in sacks. He's probably the head of the defense player of the year voting. It would have been Garrett before last week, but he sacked Lamar like 3.5 times or something like that. Cameron Hayward is a monster on the interior. That's concerning, especially with the Vikings struggles against power, right? Against powerful guys on the interior. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't know what our offensive line combination is going to be, but no matter what it is, somebody's going to be a little bit of a target. On the Steelers offense, Ben's arm is shot. Like
completely
they'll
shot.
hit downfield throws, but they're like
that ball wobbles every time.
It wobbles, and they're like, I hate to take his name in vain here, but they're like the Teddy deep shots, right? They're not him driving the ball down the field. They're
so much worse than Teddy. Don't insult Teddy that way. That ball floats like a mofo. That thing floats like a cloud. You guys know, we won't talk about fantasy teams, but you know how agonizing it's been for me to watch that team. Like
I'm fully expecting Chase Claypool to have 2 deep touchdowns this week.
Well, okay, let's talk about that. Okay, it's not going to be Ben. Ben is not going to beat us. If they beat us, they have a wide receiver group that's elite, and they have the rookie running back who is making a case for rookie of the year. Those are the guys that could beat us.
And their offensive line is bad.
Yeah.
But do you think they will? And how do you think they'll do it if they do it on the offensive side of the ball?
I think Deontay Johnson is a really tough cover, just a really good route runner, a good wide receiver overall, and he's kind of their go-to guy. And Chase Claypool kind of not having the leap that people kind of were hoping him to, based on what an incredible rookie year he had and how explosive he is. Like, he's like a height, weight, speed, Jesus, just like incredible athletic potentials. And they haven't really been able to click. It's unfortunate that Big Ben's arm is on the decline a little bit because
they had a game this year. I kid you not. I think they targeted Chase 12 times, and I think he had something like 4 catches. And I'm sorry, but that's not on the receiver. So I think I'm wondering how they will utilize the receivers. They can't go deep. They have a couple of deep balls a game, but I think they're going to work the underneath stuff, and I think they're going to give us a heavy, heavy diet of Najee Harris. That's what I'm expecting.
And that's kind of what they've done. To solve Big Ben's decline. He still has an NFL arm, so I don't want to diss him too much, but it's below average in arm strength. So they throw the ball very, very quickly, one of the fastest times to throw. And part of that is some RPO type stuff, but they also have a very, very low depth of target. And a lot of that is design throws or quick checkdowns to Najee Harris. And a lot of that is just kind of the offensive design. So it's a little counterintuitive with an offense that has a vertical threat like Chase Claypool on it. But I feel I don't know if you can bring the coverage down, more cover 4 or whatever, because also Big Ben he likes targeting the fade routes to the sideline, doesn't necessarily taking the middle of the field, which is probably good because the Vikings, I feel like the Vikings, all the explosive passes the Vikings defense has given up has been the middle of the field. So
since the first couple of weeks with Breland, but yeah.
I forget about Jamar Chase dusting Breland in week 1 so long ago. Ancient history.
Ancient history.
There are ways that this offense can beat you. They've got some guys. It's not like the Lions last week where there's no possible way that team could beat you. But
I think Matt's right though. I think this is just going to be an ugly game.
Yeah, so it's going to get muddy, right? There's going to be a lot of situations where our linebackers need to rally and tackle. In this game, there's a lot of underneath stuff. They love to run crosses to Deontay Johnson. They love to run short stuff to Najee Harris. How many catches? He had 19 targets in a game earlier this year or something ridiculous like that. So, you need the Steelers offense is horizontal and they make you stop them short of the sticks. They'll take the deep shots and Ben still has the arm, and it's more the timing on those plays that he has to do that. So I guess, watch out.
When you say he still has the arm, you mean he can physically get it downfield?
He can throw the ball 40 yards down the field on time.
Sure, that's fair.
Is what it is, right? Sure. It's not going to be a laser, but it'll be an accurate ball, which is really what you need as opposed to a laser. Now, he's not gonna be the Big Ben of old who's having defenders hang off of him and driving balls into nowhere because he's got a ridiculously strong arm. So it's a lot of different game. Yeah. But he does have the processing to be able to do that at this point. But it's really, we just need to make sure that we stop them from having long drives where they continue to pile up first downs, right? Stop third downs, stop them from getting first downs, and we're going to win the game. I don't think they're going to get a lot of explosive plays on us.
Yeah. And they don't really need to. So I actually feel like pretty confident against this offense. I mean, it's obviously struggled a lot this year. I also kind of feel like we match up well. Like, I worry more about teams that can extend plays and chuck it downfield and test our cornerbacks. I worry less about teams that like to attack underneath. And especially if Barr and Kendricks are back healthy, which sounds like they are, I feel like we will do a good job wrapping up and keeping guys short of the sticks. So a team that wants to get rid of the ball right away rather than test our pass rush from getting home and test our coverage is music to my ears.
I'm going to try something different this week, guys. I'm gonna put this out into the universe. I'm terrified of the Steelers. I have a great deal of respect for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Ben Roethlisberger might have a resurrection type game against us. I'm worried that they're going to score 40 points. So, okay, I'm just going to put that out in the end.
So if you're worried about the Steelers, the place to be worried, and we haven't touched on it too much, is on the defense, right? I mentioned the defense line a little bit.
I'm not actually that worried about them.
Their pass rush is awesome because of Watt and Hayward. They don't have as much on the interior of the defensive line as they did last year, where they were clearly the most.
A couple guys are banged up too.
Defense in the league. But in the secondary, Minkah Fitzpatrick makes plays on the ball. That's always concerning when you have Kirk's been excellent taking care of the ball this year, right? Kirk has those games where he makes mistakes. So Minkah might be able to take advantage of those if we have those on offense. That's where you have to be concerned. I don't think they have anybody who can cover, because I think Thielen's declared out. I don't think they have anybody really who can cover Jefferson one-on-one. They do it more with zone and bracketing him and stuff like that. But they're a well-coached team too. They're not a team that, when you have the obvious threat of Justin Jefferson, they're a team that's probably going to work to eliminate him from the game. And they have the talent on the defensive end to do a better job of that than the Lions did. I'm not sure it's possible to stop Justin Jefferson at this point. But if it is, I think the Steelers might be able to accomplish it. So that's where I would be concerned.
So our listeners will be listening to this most likely in the hours before the game tomorrow night. Yep. For us, it's tomorrow night. For y'all, it's tonight. You're listening. Let's set the stage a little bit for them, and let's try to keep this concise. Is this a must-win game? I'm saying this is maybe all the marbles here tonight. I think that this game, if you lose this game, I don't know. I don't know that you can really recover from that. Well, how do you guys feel? Is this a must-win game?
I think if the Vikings lose this game, I don't think Mike Zimmer is the Vikings head coach next year. I think it's pretty much case closed at that point.
Yeah.
So it's a must-win.
I think that there is not a great chance of Mike Zimmer being the Vikings head coach next year at this point. But if we lose this game, he's absolutely not the head coach next year. I think it's also a death knell for our playoff chances. We'd be 5-8. We need to go 9-8. And notably, we need to beat the Packers and the Rams in that stretch to be able to do that. And if we can't beat the Lions and the Steelers, I mean, this team's weird, right? They play a lot of weird games, but I don't think we're beating both the Packers and the Rams.
Boy, guys.
So I think that's a death knell for our playoff chances. It's definitely a death knell for Zimmer. One other note, I don't think any firings are going to happen before the end of the season or very close to the last game. I just don't think that's the way the Wolves roll.
Yeah, I agree with you on that 100%. I also think, and I said this to you guys privately, I also think that no matter how I feel about the situation, and we're not going to get into it this week, but no matter how I feel that Mike Zimmer has earned the respect of finishing his tenure with us. I really do feel that way. So I don't think he's getting fired anytime soon, folks. At least not until the season's over. Any last thoughts on either the Steelers or the Lions? Going once? Okay. It's time. It's time, boys. It's time to talk about it. Every week, we like to we are all in a fantasy league together, and we know our listeners don't want to hear us talk about our fantasy teams, but we desperately want to discuss them. So every week we dedicate 15 seconds of the show to discussing our fantasy teams. I'm very excited for this one this week. Every guy gets 5 seconds. Nick, let's start with you. Go.
I am 11-1. I'm resting my starters this week, getting healthy for the playoffs.
Matt, go.
I let my team down as a coach. I need to do better next year.
I have won 5 games in a row. I'm coming for that chip. All right. Guys, it was surprisingly fun talking to you about this the state of the team this week. Let's see what happens, right? Big one.
Yeah, we got it all out. We got it all out, man.
We did.
I had to watch that all 22, and at least I got to talk about it.
We laughed, we cried. Any final words? I'm going to give you a digital hug here. It's on video.
Well,
we got to pimp all our stuff. Sorry. Matt, we've all got our, if you're watching this on video, you can see our handles beneath our videos, but just in case, Matt, where can people find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Fries Football.
Nick, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Nick Olson NFL.
Excellent. You can find me, Gregg Blake, at You've Been Gregged with 3 G's, either on Twitter or Instagram. You can find us as a group at Kindred Skulls on Twitter. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to watch our videos, you can find us by searching for Kindred Skulls on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. More digital hugs.
Sorry, Greg.
Like Oli Udo.
Like Oli Udo.
Like Oli
Udo.
I'm giving you the old Oli. Good night.
Another first round corner wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, another first round corner wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, another first round corner wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all cheer on behind, and we'll score.